Hey, how's it going? It's Albert Camus time. Like when I was younger, when I was a lot younger than today. Like Camus was like one of my intellectual heroes. Just everything. He looks good. He writes short books. He's like a smart guy. How many seconds are we into this? Anyway, so you know, Camus. So book talk, Camus, Albert Camus. It's Alexander Lawrence, The Portal Infinite. So we have a lot of. You should check out a lot of the other. You should check out all these authors. I mean, I'm talking. Clarice Lispector, Lena Genian, Norma Cole, Anthony Burgess, Franz Kafka. I mean, it's like there's like so many great writers in the past. I mean, and they've kind of connected with a lot of different people. So, I'm bringing it back to Camus because a lot of people forget about Camus. And I mean, I wish I had the French one. And this is from the 40s. Like all these guys I've been talking about today, like we're all born around the same time. But Burgess, Kafka's a little bit older, but he wrote the Metamorphoses in 1915. Well, around the time these guys were born. So yeah, he's more like the contemporaries with James Joyce and Thomas Mann and others. But Camus. So yeah, let's read a little bit of it, and then we'll talk about the book. So everyone, is this a Richard? Oh, so this is Matthew Ward. So I read the Richard So when I read a lot of these French books, I read the Richard Howard one, and like I have my Flowers of Evil back there. That's a Richard Howard. Okay, so Mama died today or yesterday, maybe. I don't know. I got a telegram from the home. Mother deceased. Funeral tomorrow. Faithfully yours. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe it was yesterday. The old people's home is at Marengo, about 80 kilometers from Algiers. I'll take the 2 o'clock bus and get there in the afternoon. That way I can be there for the vigil and come back tomorrow night. I asked my boss for 2 days off, and there was no way he was going to refuse me with an excuse like that, but he wasn't too happy about it. I even said, it's not my fault. He didn't say anything. Then I thought I should have said that. After all, I didn't have anything to apologize for. He's the one who should have offered his condolences, but he probably will day after tomorrow when he sees that I'm in mourning. For now, it's almost as if Mama weren't dead. After the funeral, though, the case will be closed. Everything will have a more official feel to it. So he just has this. This book's written in the present tense, but because in French you have there's a special verb tense just for novels, and he was one of the first guys to just write books like people write letters or just journals and stuff. So, and when I first read this back in the 80s, remember that decade? I think I stayed up all night reading this. Like, it took me like 8 hours to get through, and I just drank tea all night and read it from midnight to 8 o'clock in the morning or something. I don't know. So it was some outrageous, so you do those kind of stunts when you're really young. So the main character of this book is called Salt. It's kind of a combination of what was it, like the sea and the sand or something? Okay, so she was living in an old age home. He takes off for a funeral. He's not really in mourning or anything. When asked if he wishes to view his body, he declines. He smokes and drinks white coffee, not the black coffee, at the vigil held by the coffin. The vigil held the night before the burial. Back in Algiers, Marcel encounters Marie, a former secretary of his firm. The two become reacquainted, swim together, watch a comedy film, and begin to have an intimate relationship. All this happens on the day of his mother's funeral. Over the next few days, Marcel helps Raymond Sintes, a neighbor and friend who is rumored to be a pimp, but says he works in a warehouse to get revenge on the Moorish girlfriend he suspects has been accepting gifts and money from another man. Raymond asks Marcel to write a letter inviting the girl over to Raymond's apartment solely so he can have sex with her and then spit in her face and throw her out. While listening to Raymond, Marceau is unfazed by any feelings of empathy, does not express concern that she would be emotionally hurt by this plan and agrees to write the letter. The girl visits Raymond on Sunday morning and the police get involved when he beats her for slapping him after he tries to kick her out. He asks Marceau to testify that the girl had been unfaithful when he is called to a police station. Marceau agrees. Ultimately, Raymond is let off with a warning. Well, yeah, I guess this book is kind of sexist, like looking back at it. While this is going on, Marceau's boss asks him if he would like to work at a branch that their firm is thinking about opening in Paris. And Marie asks him if he wants to get married. In both cases, Marceau does not have strong feelings about anything. Also, Salamando, Marceau, and Raymond's elderly neighbor loses his abused and diseased dog, and despite outwardly maintaining his usual spiteful and uncaring attitude towards the creature, goes to Marceau for comfort and advice for a few times. During one of these conversations, Salamando, who adopted the dog as a companion shortly after his wife's death, mentioned that some neighbors had said some nasty things about Marceau after he sent his mother to a retirement home. Marceau is surprised to learn about this negative impression of his actions. So yeah, when you send your mother to like the old age home, it's kind of like hey, it's kind of like The Stranger, the novel. One, it's like when we, I guess that was maybe in French culture, it's like the worst thing, like sending your relatives to some sanatorium. One weekend, Raymond invites Marceau and Marie to the beach cabin. They're there to see the brothers of Raymond's spurned girlfriend, along with another Arab who Raymond has mentioned having been following him around recently. The Arab confronts Raymond and his friend, and the brother wounds Raymond with a knife before running away. Later, Marceau walks back along the beach alone, armed with a revolver he took from Raymond to prevent him from acting rashly, and encounters the brother of Raymond's girlfriend, disoriented and on the edge of a heat stroke. Marceau shoots when the Arab flashes his knife at him. It is a fatal shot, but Marceau shoots the man 4 more times after a pause. Okay, so then we get to part two. So which is part two. So that's up until page 60. So this book is only 120. So it's exactly like there's part one, 60 pages, and part two. So it's like it's almost like twice the size of the Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis. So he's incarcerated. So the second part, he's in jail, and it's also like Clockwork Orange. The main character goes to jail. Like I read a lot of these novels where like Lolita. Like, I guess like half the novels I read, Jean Genet, Nabokov, the main character's in jail for some reason. So like I guess that's a big influence. So he's incarcerated. Marceau never denies he committed the murder. At the trial, the prosecuting attorney focuses more on his inability or unwillingness to cry at his mother's funeral. And somebody's calling here. He portrays Marceau's quietness and passivity as restraint, demonstrating his criminality and lack of remorse, and denounces Marceau as a soulless monster. Put in a new cell, Marceau obsesses over his impending doom and tries to imagine some way in which he escape his fate. He refuses to see the prison Champlain. So one day he visits him anyway. Marceau says that he does not believe in God and is not even interested in the subject, but the Champlain persists in trying to lead Marceau away from his atheism. After the Champlain leave, Rousseau finds some comfort in thinking that the parallels between his situation and how he thinks his mother must have felt while being surrounded by death and slowly dying at his retirement home, yelling at the chaplain. He emptied him of all hopes of thoughts of escape or successful appeal, so he manages to open his heart to the benign indifference of the universe and decides that he has been and still is happy. His indifference to the universe makes him feel like he belongs to it. He even hopes that there will be a large, hateful crowd at his execution, which will bring everything to a consummate end. Or so. So, yeah, like absurdism, it's like Howard the Duck, trapped in a world that you never made. You just couldn't accept the absurd universe and uh, the philosophical context of the absurd. So those are some ideas that were going on, like kind of like more intellectual ideas than just kind of like the late Victorian idea of like decadence and what and like what I think my own personal feeling is I think in late Victorianism and the aesthetes of the 1890s, they kind of like thought that maybe God didn't exist and maybe you should just devote yourself to pleasure and stuff and excess and stuff, and because like it doesn't matter because like there's no payback and stuff. So I think that's how I see a lot of the turn of the century writing, like from Wilde to Furbank and stuff. That I think, but later, I mean, like these guys had been through a couple wars, so they were like thinking, like even war is kind of extreme. That's kind of absurd. Like people died in war. That seems, that's like an existential situation, and it just seems kind of unfair. And God, religious things just they bring comfort, but they don't really change anything or have anything to do with society because like society becomes very bureaucratic and unfeeling, and the mechanism of whatever like state executions or whatever. Um, in his novel, it is blah 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 blah. Oppressive, flawed exercise and kind of writing promoted by the new. Yeah, that might be true. Promoted by new. Uh, yeah, The Stranger, L'Étranger, and Nausea. And yeah, maybe it's kind of an update of the Crime and Punishment and stuff. Maybe that's an influence and stuff. More, where the main character is always going to jail. Like it seemed maybe now that I look back at it, like it seemed like half of the novels that I read, the main character ends up in jail. Like all these teenage novels, that's like the thing. What does that happen in Catcher in the Rye or whatever? I mean, or Lord of the Ring, it's kind of like they go to the island and that's the jail. Yeah, let's see what else. So this book, yeah, it was published in 41, but the translations kind of came out like after the war, more like 46. Stuart Gilbert, those are the ones I read. But there's a new one. This one's the is it this one? Yeah, Matthew Ward, and yeah, like like it's I mean, this is the book that people like kind of read when they start reading Camus, but maybe it's not. Maybe The Fall or The Plague are better. I should reread The Plague actually. Okay, well that's it. Albert Camus, definitely an important writer and stuff. And I'm just gonna. I mean, all these books I've been talking about: Camus, Clockwork Orange, Metamorphosis, and even Junkie. Or I like them. They're all like little short novels, and when I started reading as a teenager, I looked, I didn't really go after like Crime and Punishment or not crime, um, War and Peace or some of the bigger, maybe some of the Dickens, because just I wanted to kind of get through it. But like all these books, they just seem so easy to read now, easy like light reading now for me now because I'm so kind of used to having read a couple of them a few times. Okay, so that's all for today. Ask some more questions, recommend a book, we'll do it.